Joining us now, Mississippi State Senator Jeremy England. He represents District 51. He's the vice chair. Is this right, Jeremy? Welcome, by the way. Are you vice chair of economic development?
Well, I was. I
Okay.
was promoted, according to the Lieutenant Governor's staff, to Vice Chair of Judd B.
Okay. You went from economic development to Judd B. You know, being the businessman that I am, I would argue the economic development is actually more important. But but I know Judd B, you got a lot more probably power, maybe just issues to deal with. Let's put it that way. And
Well,
thus,
there's a lot more bills. A lot more bills.
yeah,
come to the
that's what I
committee.
mean. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, you're right. In fact, on economic development, we really just want you guys to just be the Maytag repairman and just stay the hell out of the way. And I know you would agree with that as well. Don't pass any dang laws, will you? So, but we appreciate you joining us. It's been a while since we talked, and we discussed it earlier on the program. We're inside a month. You will be returning to the dome, underneath the dome there, taking care of the people's business. It's hard to believe. It seems like we were just breaking down the 2022 session not so long ago, and I guess we were, but it seems like a rather short break, and here we go. It's time to get back to Jackson and start this thing all over again. Plus, it is an election year as well, and that always makes for interesting times in the legislature. What do you see? What sort of bills are you thinking about? What are your priorities? What are you hearing from leadership, the conference, et cetera? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Gerard. And yeah, look, it snuck up on us pretty quick here to head back to Jackson for sure. It's been a crazy 3 years, and now we're heading into the fourth year of the term. Looking ahead, I would say what's important for me is what we were talking about a minute ago: economic development, workforce development in particular. I want to see us grow and expand our career coaches in Mississippi. I know that's one of the governor's priorities. It's something we were able to do last year in the legislature. We allotted $8 million for that program. The governor asked us to bump that to 16, and I'd like to see us do that. We're seeing things in Jackson County. We have career coaches, and your listeners, and you can look it up online. It's the P3 program offered through the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation, and they team with United Way and with our Jackson County Chamber. And these individuals, they're not MDE employees, but they're in our schools. They're going and they're talking to students that may have a hard time, may come from a different challenging background. It may be the students that just completely don't like school, so they don't like being told, what are you going to do next? How are you going to continue your education? And instead, these folks will go in and tell them about programs we have with our community colleges or with our different employers like Chevron and Ingalls here in Jackson County, and get them to work. And that's been something that's been very impressive to me, and I really like that program here.
Good. Well, every employer out there is saying we need people. We can't find enough people, and when we can find people, they don't possess the skills, the requisite skills that are even employable by them. And it's clearly an impediment to growing the economy of our state. It is an impediment in every state, and now we're seeing some degree of competition for labor, which is a good thing if you're out there looking for work. But as an employer, it just makes life more difficult than you probably anticipated not so long ago. That situation was totally different. So, and I think the state has taken a lot of action to try to rectify that situation and improve the overall readiness and quality of our workforce. I think we've seen that play out. We've had some economic wins and some success there from a project's perspective, and it's a direct result of that.
That's right. I mean, we're seeing it. The Golden Triangle. Joe Max was on with Paul Gallo just yesterday, I believe, in the Golden Triangle area, and he mentioned one thing that's also important. They're looking to bring a daycare center in there because we child care for a lot of these folks is something that keeps them from being able to move into a new job, and to translate that down here to where what we see in Jackson County, you have Ingalls Shipbuilding saw a huge decrease in their women in the workforce. And look, from talking with the folks at Ingalls, they love women working in the shipyard because women are very detail oriented. They want to get out there and they find problems. They look to what needs to be done. And a lot of these folks may be single mothers or may have jobs where they can't go in and train. And you mentioned, being competitive to attract a workforce. Another part of that we're seeing employers do here in Mississippi is pay people while they're training. And for students in high school and for people that may be working in jobs that don't pay as much, for them to hear that, we'll bring you in, we'll put you in an apprentice program or in a classroom at the community college. You're going to learn what to do, and we're going to pay you while you do it. I mean, that's a big deal, and it's going to help us here in Mississippi and help our employers find great people to go to work for.
It's a function of a tight labor market. This is the way the market works. This is the way it should work. When there, I mean, labor is in effect a commodity, and so folks at work, you're selling your labor in essence. And when the market competes for those services, they get creative, and that's what we're witnessing. So it's a win-win deal. Glad to see that project taking off here in the state of Mississippi. Joe Mack's fantastic effort there to secure that big win. We got projects, as you know, Senator, going on across the state. We've got lots of good economic development folks involved in that, and the governor has made that a top priority, and I think he's tooting the horn, and we got a good story to tell. We just got to tell it more, and when we do, it resonates with these organizations, and they make decisions to come into Mississippi. Some of that, I think, is a result of the success we had with tax reform last year. You think anything's on the table coming up in the next session? The lieutenant governor seems to be supportive of the idea of just kind of a one-time rebate. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I put a lot of thought into that, Gerard. I know that's one of the lieutenant governor's big items that he wants to see this year. And the more I think about it, and I told the lieutenant governor this, I'm in favor of that. And the reason being, we have a large amount of revenue that we're seeing right now, whether it's coming from, one-time money that the federal government put into the system and sent people checks or whatever. We have, I think, $1.5 billion or somewhere close to that over what we were expecting in revenue. And there's two things the government can do with that. We can give some of that money back to the people of Mississippi, the taxpayers of Mississippi, and allow them to spend that money. Or we can grow government, and we can do more things through the government. And I'm not a fan of growing the government. I've said since we saw COVID come in and really require the government to kind of expand in some areas to deal and address with that issue across the country, we really need to see the government contract again and not get away from where we expanded, because in other times in our country's history, in our state's history, when the government expands, it rarely ever goes back into the boundaries that it had before. And I think this is a good idea to keep us from expanding. We'll give them some money back to the people and let them spend it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Appreciate you weighing in on that. What are some of the other big issues you think will be taken up in this session? And I'll start with this one and get your take on it. Senator, is a citizen-initiated ballot measure process. We don't have one right now based on the Supreme Court's ruling. We couldn't get the House and the Senate to agree on a bill last year. Anything that any change made would amend the Constitution in that regard, and thus it has to go to the people to vote on at a statewide ballot. That's coming up in November next year. Be good timing. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think we need a statewide ballot initiative, and I hope we do see that move. I'm not sure that we will. But, legislation to come out right, it takes a lot of debate and a lot of time to look at it. I think the system that we had was flawed. I think what we were going to start to see with our old initiative system was a lot of people coming in from out of state, dumping a lot of money in an issue, changing public sentiment how they wanted it based on the narrative that they were given, and then having that law or that new program go directly into our state's constitution. And that's a system that worried me. So I think that I've heard a lot of good things coming from this, and I think we will see something. I'm not sure if we'll see something pass, but if it doesn't, look, we're working on it, and we know it's one of our things we've got to do.
Okay. Well, it might be a bit of a calm year We're about out of time here. Might be kind of a muted year just because we've got elections coming up. Sometimes that's the way it works out, but hopefully we'll get some good stuff coming up this year. Appreciate you coming on, Senator. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Gerard. Merry Christmas to you and your family and your listeners.
Same to you, and sure am sorry about the passing of Coach Leach, my friend.
Oh, so sad. Such a sad week for Bulldogs and Mississippi. It really was.